Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I feel like recently I've been talking a lot about calorie tracking, macro tracking to make sure you stay on track with your goals, make sure you're able to lose fat. But I get it. A lot of people don't want to do it. And I'm not going to sit here and lie about it. It is a pain in the ass sometimes. And sometimes I don't feel like doing it. But at the end of the day, you can't just do the work when you feel like doing it, right? You have to have some idea of what your calorie intake is versus your metabolic rate and your expenditure if you want to see fat loss. Now, that being said, I'm very much a proponent of tracking more from the educational standpoint and less about the hitting the exact number, because it's never an exact number. It's more of like a moving target estimate. It changes a little bit, but it does give you an idea of what you should be shooting for. So I'm just going to let you in on a couple things that I do that I think make tracking a little less painful, and maybe it'll encourage you to do it a little bit more to get a better idea of kind of where you're at with your intake versus where you need to be. So the first thing, I always track protein, right? Protein is really important. If you look at my video yesterday that I put up about fat loss, protein intake is the second, in my opinion, second most important nutritional factor in whether or not you're able to lose fat behind total calorie intake, right? So protein is very satiating. It helps us feel full. It has the highest thermic effect of food, which means it takes our body the most amount of energy and calories to digest it once we consume it. So it's very important, and it also obviously helps with recovery and building muscle. So it's a very important nutrient. So I would always track that. The other reasons for that, or the other main reason for that, is typically, not always, but typically, people who hit their protein goals tend to stay sort of where they should be with their other macros. That's probably because of the satiating factor. It's probably because it takes up, more of your calories and you're not as hungry. So I found, and especially even for me, when I do track my protein, even if I'm not paying that much attention to the others, macros, fats, and all that, people tend to kind of stay where they should be when they hit their protein numbers. So that's the first thing you can do. Second one, I don't track fruits and vegetables, okay? Now, yes, it's absolutely true that all calories count, all calories matter. You don't get to ignore a calorie because it came from a healthy source as opposed to what might be not so healthy source. But the reality is, I would be willing to bet I don't know anybody who is overweight and unhealthy because they ate too many fruits and veggies, right? Fruits and veggies have tons of nutrients, and they are not calorically dense, right? So you can eat a ton of fruits or vegetables and not really have to worry about the calories. So I would say don't bother tracking fruits and vegetables because it's really not necessary. I also don't track my coffee intake. My coffee is pretty bland. It's very low calorie. And again, yes, all calories matter, but I don't take in enough that it would throw off my calorie intake by that much and cause weight gain. So if you're somebody who drinks a lot of very low calorie or obviously no calorie drinks, no need to track that. And the third thing I would say is I actually don't really track, if there's a dish we're making at home that has a ton of different ingredients. I'm not going to sit there and try to break it up and be like, oh, well, I think there's about a half a cup of this in there and then probably a teaspoon of that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. So I really try to keep an eye on the things that are easily tracked and the things that are the things that you can, keep track of without pulling your hair out, trying to figure out, well, how do I track this? How much is here? How many calories were in this? It may seem sort of contradictory to what I always say, which is that all calories count and all calories matter. They all go towards your daily intake. But the reality is, if you want to make it a little easier, these are some things that you can do that will kind of make the process less painstaking and help you to probably make a little bit more progress if you follow some of those things. So if you have any further questions about nutrient tracking, let me know, concerns. And I just use, the other thing I want to say was tracking on an app. I just use MyFitnessPal. It has an easy, free version. It does have a paid version if you want to do that. And there's a couple other, there's a bunch of other paid nutrition apps that are a little more intuitive. Avatar Nutrition is one. And then there's one called Carbon Diet Coach that are pretty in depth, but you do have to pay for those ones. But anyway, whatever one you use, tracking is really more about education. It's about awareness, because with those two things, you can then start to make changes, right? Because if you have no clue where the holes are in your nutritional game, you can't possibly fix them.